They had storm last night, and the rain knocked some of these over, which is bad. And then a big dog came running around here with somebody on a little cart following him, and he decided to run around my car and right through these here. And as long as the stem is not bent completely over 90 degrees, like that one's 90 degrees, that'll cut the leaf activity of making carbohydrates, and so it's pretty much done. If it's just leaning over a little bit, it'll make it. Like those are leaning over right there, but the stems aren't bent over. But see those right there? They're bent over. So either the storm knocked it over. I think the dog ran through there. I think he jumped. It's a big retriever. He jumped over that and ran out through there. So that didn't help any. That's why we try to keep a fence around here, and why he can't run out there in the street is beyond me. But everyone where it's not completely over like 90 degrees or more, it will stop producing, and it's pretty much done. Well, it's Wednesday, June 11th at 4:25 in the afternoon on the East Coast. And I pulled all the leeks that had gone to seed and some of the other bigger ones, because it was their maturity date is about 100 days. And since we're getting close to 100 days, I wanted to pull them before they all went to seed. These are Lancelot leeks, and they're hybrids, so growing seeds wouldn't do me any good. And I left the ones in that were a little bit smaller, and they're 100-day leeks, so they're pretty close to 100 days. Here in Central Virginia, leeks are generally grown as a fall crop because usually it gets too warm for them, which is probably one of the reasons it's going to seed. Today hit about 92. It's cloudy now, and it's maybe in the 80s, and we're getting high 80s. We got a little bit of a breeze, but my shirt is soaking wet from working in the garden. But for $5, I could get this many leeks and plant them, and if I just get a handful, it's worth it. But they're really better to start and grow, and when we have a mild winter, you can leave them in the ground and pull them out as you need them. If the ground freezes hard solid, you can't do that. And I see another one that's gone to seed, and there's my bucket to go in my car, so I'm going to pick another one. Well, these are the onions that went to seed. They're not cleaned up perfect, but you leave it an inch or more at the top, and then trim off those roots so that you don't damage the bottom of the onion, and pull off the browner skin that's sort of baked on. But you would take this whole layer off, but since these went to seed, it doesn't matter because we're going to use them fairly quickly. Leeks. Here's a leek. You only need about 5-6 inches of this, probably about 6, and you can cut off the root. I don't cut off it real big, but you generally will have to come up higher later. And then if you leave these two leaves on there and you cut it up here at about 6 inches, when you pick this up and pull those off, you end up with this. And you can put these in a plastic bag and store them in your refrigerator for some period of time. I really forget what it is, but you know, probably a week, maybe 10 days. But they lose, every day it'll lose its quality, so it's best to use them pretty quick. So you would just cut the roots off, cut it off about 6 inches long, pull these two leaves off, put it in your pan. And with these, we're just going to leave them out to air out and use them as we need them. Have a few more to do. And some of these weren't too bad size. One thing about leeks, if you're new to it, if you've ever grown them and used them, you know it instantly. Between these leaves, as this thing grows, just the nature of the way it grows, soil can get in there really heavy. Now this is cut a little longer than probably what you're going to use, but anyway, that soil gets in it, And the way to get rid of that soil so it's not in your food, which would be horrible, is you just put that on a cutting board and you cut rings about that wide, and then you have a bowl. I prefer a bowl so I can see the bottom of the bowl, and I like to use cold water, like regular tap water, with 8 or 10 ice cubes in it, and they'll melt away pretty quick. And then you cut these in slices. You get this down to where it's tender and you don't want all this green leaf, so this one probably is going to be used about there. But when you cut this off, you'll see it turn whiter and whiter, and when it gets to where you want to use it, the whiter part, the green does have some flavor. It's stronger than the white. And you cut this in little strips, maybe 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch wide, and you pop them apart like you would an onion and drop them in the water. And after you get them all done, you gently touch them and move them around so that the soil that's clinging to the inside of these leaves, you can see it down in there. Get over here by this door. See, there's soil in there. Will fall to the bottom of the bowl. And you may have to do it twice. And then when you know they're all clean and you can see the dirt in the bottom, and you may have done it twice, you take a ladle with holes in it and gently pick these off the top so you don't stir up any of the soil in the bottom. And then you use them. And you can freeze leeks just like onions, and it's best if you would take a cookie sheet or one of those baking trays and put the leeks on it separate and stick them in your freezer and let them freeze. And then when you put them in a baggie or a seal-a-meal bag, when you want to use some, you can reach in and get a handful instead of them being frozen together. But anyway, that alone right there is worth the seeds. I cut the seed heads off of these leeks and onions because all this is going in the compost pile, and I don't need those seeds in my compost pile. Just a thought. I'll try to hold this in my hand while I do this. You know, there's certain things you have in cooking, and when you cut through with a knife, you know that it's going to be good to use. Well, when you cut these ends off the leeks that hadn't gone to seed, it's almost no sound whatsoever. But when you cut one that's gone to seed, hear it? Because it's gone to seed, and when the leek goes to seed, this whole stem just turns and gets hard. See it? It's gotten pithy, you know. But you would normally cut off, see where that thing comes down? That's about where you cut these things off. But see that? It should just be through it with no pressure. I got right much pressure on it. That's why you can't use them after they go to seed. It's way too hard to cut through. Last tip, since these are going in the compost pile, I got my little chopping board right here and a nice strong sharp knife. I cut them in smaller pieces so they break down easier. And you can spread them over the top of your compost pile and there won't be a big clump of them in one spot. And the seeds went in the trash can. And all these leek and onion leaves and roots are in the compost pile. And they'll magically disappear between now and next year.